Good morning from my giant wooden friend and I. It's not the easiest thing in the world to move around. Hello and welcome to an AV Forums short video overview of the Bose & Wilkins 702 S3 signature loudspeaker. My name is Ed Selly, I'm the hi-fi editor for AV Forums. This is my third effort at a short video overview. As ever, it will accompany a written review on the site which goes into greater detail, involves things that I will undoubtedly forget to say to the camera, and has considerably less occasions of me saying or getting hung up on one particular word. Last video's word of the day was benign. I can't wait to see which one this is. What have we got here? Right, 702 S3 signature is the larger of two 700 signature models. There's a 705 signature as well. Bose & Wilkins explained at the launch for this loudspeaker that a signature can only be a signature if it has a tweeter on top. Exhibit A. Now, in the case of the 700 series, this has two interesting outcomes. Like the last generation, Bose & Wilkins has elected to use the only stand mount that has tweeter on top and the largest floor stander. The 703 also has tweeter on top, but they've elected not to do a signature version of that. However, for you multi-channel fiends, the centre speaker in this generation of 700 series does have a tweeter on top. So if you want 5 or more of these, you can have 5 or more of these with no need to go to the standard cooking model for a centre speaker, which is good news. And I believe we are in discussions to see if we can do a multi-channel pack of the signatures just as soon as I can summon up the mental fortitude to get these back in the box. More on that in a little bit. Signatures are tweaked versions of the standard line models. Bose & Wilkins doesn't change the fundamental shape, layout or basic behaviour of any of the speakers that they turn into signature models. This means that this is still a 3.5-way floor standing speaker. That means tweeter, mid-range and 3 aerofoil bass drivers. These drivers are largely unchanged from how they are in the standard versions, which is no huge surprise because they are extremely sophisticated. This tweeter housing for the latest generation of 700 is longer. It's far more elegant than the previous generation one, but the performance is markedly better as well. It still feels a bit weird. It's decoupled, so it's wobbly. And that can be momentarily surprising when you take it out of the box, but it is designed to be wobbly. And I will say that there's a fair amount of care and effort gone into ensuring that it arrives at your house attached to the rest of the loudspeaker. Continuum mid-range, this is Bose & Wilkins' secret sauce woven effort. The only part of the Bose & Wilkins factory where you're not allowed to take photos or film any video, true story. And this hands over at an undetermined crossover point. Bose & Wilkins does not list this information to the 3 bass drivers. Bose & Wilkins has been busy on the inside with the bass drivers especially. They have been revising what they call the spider, which doesn't actually look anything like a spider anymore. It used to, hence why it has the name, but is now a sort of ring of material which acts as the coupling point between the magnet assembly and the driver itself. This has been beefed up with a view to trying to clean up and improve bass extension. I need to stress that the standard 702 isn't exactly lacking in this regard, but Bose & Wilkins felt that it had a little bit more to give. The crossover is heavily revised. This has become something of a consistent point for signature loudspeakers. I've listed all of those changes in the written review, but the long and the short of it is that as well as changing individual components for higher quality models, the physical crossover layout is actually different to the one in the standard 702. Areas have been doubled up and it's been quite significantly revised. It then communicates to the outside world via a set of terminals which support bi-wiring, which is quite the throwback in this day and age, which is basically the same as the one on the 800 series loudspeakers. It's very, very smart. It's highly reflective, so it's been an absolute pain in the arse to shoot video of, but there you go. The whole speaker is fairly reflective when I think about it. The other big part of the 702, and this it applies to the standard version as well, is that it's lower ported for the first time. When we did the previous generation 702 signature, the review for which is still on the site, that was ported at the back in conventional Bose & Wilkins practice. This has a lower port, which is then separated via an air gap to a fixed plinth. You can't use the speaker without the plinth. This has two sonic effects and one physical effect. This is relatively unaffected by boundaries. I wouldn't slam them quite close up to a wall, let alone put them tight into a corner, but they will fundamentally behave themselves pretty well. It also means that the port itself is a whopper. I will stick my hands up. I forgot to shoot a video section of the whole before I attached the plinths when I put the speakers in place, but I can assure you it's a big sort of aperture, which means it runs at a relatively low velocity, so I've not heard it even when I've been pushing these speakers relatively hard. One other side effect of this is that it means that this speaker has very little in the way of what you'd recognise as a handhold. It is extremely difficult to move around. This is a reviewer's complaint. If you buy a pair of these, I don't imagine that you're going to spend a huge amount of time manhandling them from one place to another, but you will need to be careful and you will need to be reasonably strong, as they are in excess of 40 kilos each. This is another outing for the Bose & Wilkins Daytook Gloss Ebony. Now, I've tried to shoot some pictures and video of this. I promise you I haven't made it look as good as it does when you actually are in front of the loudspeaker. There are two finishes for the signatures. There's the ebony that you see here, and there's a blue, which is the rapidly becoming Bose & Wilkins signature blue. We saw it on the 805 signature, which we reviewed right at the start of this year. Bose & Wilkins hasn't 100% confirmed that that's going to be signature blue and appear on most signature loudspeakers going forwards, but the suggestion is there that it probably will be, and that's no bad thing because it is an extremely nice colour. In some ways, the 700 gets a better deal out of finishes than the 800s do. I think that the ebony is a nicer overall finish and less in your face than the burl walnut that the 800 series gets. So both of the finishes are very pleasant. Were it my money, I'd probably go for the blue. I think it's a lovely contemporary finish. I really liked it on the 800s when it was here. I've been shown how it looks on the 700s versus the 800s, which sounds sort of no sort of relevance, but these are built in the Far East and the 800s are built in the UK, so they are being sprayed up in two totally different locations. Other than the fact that this is a less rounded cabinet, so it catches the light slightly differently, it looks exactly the same. It looks extremely good, and that would be the finish that I would go for. But for fans of wood, this is a nice wood, so that's all well and worth it. This is, as you might imagine from a speaker of this sort of size, an effortless foil for the creation of scale. It really does produce an effortless sense of weight, room-filling, confident, airy presentation that works at low levels as well as when you're giving them the beans. I can legitimately point to the fact that the Acoustic Energy Corinium, the review for which is both on the site and there's a video overview as well, I felt the Corinium was a little bit more engaging, a little bit more joyous. It behaved itself in a way that appeals to my preferences when listening to music that I thoroughly enjoy. It's not to say that this speaker isn't capable of being good fun, because it really is. Something else that is would not necessarily have been picked up in standard reviewing, but this has spent an awful lot of time running with NAD's M66 DAC preamp all singing all dancing Wonderbox, which includes Dirac. There's a lot of comments floating around that Bose & Wilkins has a very well lit top end, that it's actually overemphasized or just simply not done correctly. Based on, okay, the admittedly just, one shot set of measurements taken here, there's no real evidence of that based on how the speaker is dialed into this room. I mean, it's responded to a degree of correction, but the basic plots for that will be in the NAD review when that goes live, and you can see that it's, other than correcting a room node, which I'm well and truly aware of, the basic behaviour of this speaker in room is extremely benign. There's the benign word. So I've thoroughly enjoyed it. On a tiny subjective level, it might be that were I actually spending this sum of money, I'd have hoved into the Acoustic Energy dealer instead of the Bowers & Wilkins one, but there are other situations where I do think that this speaker definitely has the edge. In terms of bass extension in particular, when you've got 3 socking great enhanced aerofoil drivers, it's not just a simple question of out and out depth, although it's got plenty of that. It just sounds bigger and fuller and more effortless, and that very large lower firing port just doesn't produce any unwanted noise or interference, even when you are being very thuggish. I can see in an AV sense, whilst there are potentially limitations about having a very big shiny speaker in a darkened room, I can see the potential advantages in being able to only put subs in at a relatively low level, because this will, effortlessly go down to 40 hertz, essentially flat. So you're not asking subwoofers to run up into levels where they wouldn't necessarily be happy. And a number of people will find this scale, this impact, this effortlessness to be more compelling an argument for why they should buy it than the fact that the Acoustic Energy goes like the clappers. Ultimately, I would strongly suggest demonstrating the two and seeing where you think. Would I buy it? Comments about the Corinium notwithstanding, I do think that this is a lot of loudspeaker for the money. This is a reasonable taste of the 800 series floor standing experience. You can, of course, buy an 805 D4 for roughly the same amount of money. This gives you something a bit different. It gives you a bit of a taste of the 804, which is £13,000, at considerably less than that, and that has to be considered admirable. It's well made, it's well finished, it's attractive. Once you've got them out of the box, sworn at them and struggled to move them into position, if you're keeping them in position and not staring down the barrel of reboxing them, I can't help but think that you'll probably be delighted with your purchase. If you've enjoyed this review, well, thank you for that. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Please go and look at my written thoughts. I'm still a written journalist by profession. I am not a videographer, as these videos make it abundantly clear. So do check out the written stuff, because I think it gets some of my ideas across in a more elegant and cohesive fashion than these videos ever will. And do look out for more content in the future. Thanks ever so much for watching. Bye.